Hello and welcome back. With aluminum production now in full swing, it's time for us to start scaling up our production and exploit the world with gigafactories. But in order to do this, we've got a few hoops that we need to jump through first. So we're going to need to build a whole new logistics system, harvest all of the world's resources, and then we'll need to start smelting at scale and producing the base resources en masse to be redistributed around the world as we see fit. However, for that, we do need to ensure that our power overheads are stable, because this just isn't going to cut it. So we need to go big with fuel, and the plan is to turn all the crude oil in the blue crater into rocket fuel, which will mean turning 2,550 crude oil into a whopping 7,875 rocket fuel per minute, which, if my maths is correct, will produce a total of 472.5 gigawatts of power, and that's just to get us prepped for nuclear. Now, there's no way I can squeeze this whole build into a single episode. It's just too big. So we need to approach this the same way that we're going to approach all of our larger builds in the future. And I recommend you do too, and that's using the probe method, which stands for planning and compartmentalizing, resource and logistics, organizing the build and observing issues and fixing them, beautifying it, and then finally enjoying the finished facility. And yes, I have just spent over an hour trying to create a good acronym for us to use so that none of us will forget it in the future. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. So, I guess let's get probing.
Oh my.
Now, I'm always asked how I would go about doing larger factories, and my response is always, well, how would you eat an elephant? The answer being just to eat one bite at a time. And it's really important to listen to those words of advice when building larger factories, because if not, you will get overwhelmed with them and burnt out from the game. This is where planning comes in. Now, we work out the build, either starting off with the base resources, which in this case we're using the 2,550 crude oil per minute, and we're going to make that as much rocket fuel out of that as possible, or you could go the opposite way and start with an end goal and work out what you need in order to build that. From there, we need to break it down into smaller portions. We need to compartmentalize everything. So instead of trying to do all of this, we're going to break this particular facility down into 3 parts, which will stagger across the series. So today we're just going to be building the diluted fuel facility, and then later we'll do the turbo fuel facility, and then finally the rocket fuel facility. And we may need to do some beautifying along the way as well. Now, with that decided, we're going to cover resource and logistics. Now, we know what we need for the whole build, so we need the infrastructure now in place to bring all these resources in. And ideally, we'll know where the inputs and outputs will be for each of the facilities. So for example, here, I'll bring all the crude oil up from the north edge of the crater lake and then pipe it up to the heavy oil residue refineries, which are going to be on the southeast section of the blue crater. The fuel facility will then be located next to that on the southeast section, and then the fuel will eventually go to the turbo fuel facility in the northeast side of the blue crater. We'll then need to bring in the coal, the sulfur, and the extra nitrogen via train, because let's face it, trains are cool, which means that these will need to be located in the center of the east coast for easy distribution. Now, once the fuel is produced, and when we're not using it for power, as that's what we're going to be using it for today, we'll then send that up to the turbo fuel facility like I just mentioned, and then the turbo fuel will then move from the facility to the rocket fuel facility, which will likely be on the north coast, but I'm fluid with how that will be. That's further down the line. So with the plan now down, The resource inputs decided, it's time to set up the rail line for the logistics and then start setting up the facility. So it's time to get started, and the first thing that I'm going to need to do is to extract the crude oil, which means we're also going to have to use our power shards and overclock these to 100%. We've got 2 nodes down here, a third one just, oh, I'm gonna have to go down there, third one just behind here, 1 over here, which is just an impure node, and then 2 more, if I remember rightly, up there. I'm going to make sure that we extract all the oil and we send it up along a pipe to where the build which will be all the way over there, but probably around this height. We're going to want to overclock all of these. That means we've got 600 out of, is it both of these? No, 300 out of this one, 600 out of that one, another 300 here, 150 there. Yeah, and then 1,200 more, which is 1,550. Wonderful. Okay. So next thing that I need to do is just set up some kind of pipeline support to take this all the way to our next build. That's going to take me a few minutes, and I don't really want to focus on the basic stuff for this one, given it's going to be a long episode. And I know that because it's a lot to do. Blink and you'll miss it. As you can see, we have done the pipelines up to where we need them to be, and with this this is a little bit messy, but everything is with its own dedicated pump, so we shouldn't have any head lift issues. And I quite like what we've done with this architecture piece because it kind of mimics this one here, so we're trying to keep things together. Although thinking about it, I'm probably going to end up tearing this down unless we just extend it when it comes to turbo, compacted coal even. Anyway, so from here, we're taking the oil all the way across to this area where we'll distribute it to the heavy oil residue factory, which will be over there. And then we need to sort out the train stations now. So for this, we're going to place a train station right along the edge. Do you want it there or there? I think probably here. And then we'll add our freight platforms. And I was thinking that we could send the resources below to where the oil currently is and make that a logistics floor. So all of the oil is going to, not oil, sorry. The coal and sulfur will come along here. Thinking about it, I'd quite like to have 2 stations for each, so we avoid any kind of freeze up when we're dropping resources. And that way we can ensure, or at least hopefully ensure, that there's a constant flow of resources when it comes to our facilities. And we'll do 2 for each resource, so we've got 2 for, say, coal, then we'll do 2 for the sulfur. We're making this a bit bigger. Oh, I've done that the wrong way around anyway. I tell you what, instead of doing the train stations, let me just show you what we're going to do for the end of this. So we're going to want this, I think, what, 2, 3, 4 wide, or 4 deep, I should say, after the train station. And then we can grab our rail line. We're going to bring it all the way around to here. So we want like so, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be the end here. And we're going to do this for 6 stations. So they're all going to run back onto this line, which hopefully will not be an issue. There is a concern that maybe we'll have a problem with throughput, but if that's the case, we'll sort that out later. Next thing that I want to do, just for a bit of decoration, is place this about here and run it all the way along. I think we need to lower it actually. So to lower it, all I'm going to do is grab a 1 meter and do the same again. That, as you can see, is lowering. Should just run alongside the track. And then from here we can have just a little border to add a touch more depth to it, and we'll probably, I don't know, make this like a charcoal color, or carbon would work. So say these 2 are for coal, we'll have 2 more for sulfur, then we'll have 2 more for nitrogen, and we'll follow this line out all the way. Oh, we might have to get rid of that. It's that, or we move these slightly further forward. Regardless, what I'm going to do now is just sort out the rest of this train station and send the lines along. We'll run one section of the line back around onto here. And then we'll run the other one all the way around because if I remember rightly, we have a load of coal and also nitrogen gas around here, which we could grab. I wonder if there's sulfur as well. It's better than I anticipated. Not only have we got a metric ton of coal, we also have all the nitrogen that we need on top of the stuff that we already have at the blue crater, but we also have a pure sulfur node as well, which I think will be more than enough for us. I take that statement back. We need like 2,600 of this. Even with it maxed out on a Mark 5 bout, that's only 780 that we can take out per minute. So we are going to need more, but that's a great start. But knowing that we have to get the resources from over there, we've now set up our train stations. This should be enough. And we have the first line heading back across to, or it will at least connect back onto here. However, I'm more worried about sending this all the way up to the next area to collect those resources. So for that, all I'm going to do is grab our blueprint here, and now in 1.1 we can use auto connect, which, thinking about it, probably want to remove these for the time being. So if we grab this, run, oh, I'm going to swap this around because we need a bit more space. There we go. So we have a foundation and a half this side and a half foundation this side. So we want the smaller section and the longer section to be aligned so that they can snap together. So now that we've got that, we just, oh, not quite my intention. I'm going to push this all the way across again. And then this is going to slide into there. Plumbing connected there. Try that again. But the great thing about this is that it's going to make building rail networks that much easier and quicker to do, especially with blueprints now. So you can expect me to play a little bit more with these in the future. Let's go with that. And then we're going to have to delete the inner section that clips through and also connect this back. And while I deal with that, I'm also going to run this a little bit further along. You see there, the short sections don't snap together, but the long one does. So we can just place that. We'll keep running this around, and now I want it to go there, but we're going to have to not use the auto connect for the time being. The reason why I can't use the auto connect for that section is because it's too close together, but we need the rail on the curve to be halfway along, as you can see there, and the same this side. Otherwise, when we connect them together, it looks really weird. But good news is we should now be able to auto connect. So if we place that on the right level, there we go, and it's creating beautiful curves. Wonderful. And then I can just reconnect this. I might actually have to push this over a little bit more. We might get away with it. So I've ended up going further than I expected for the curve. We did need a much wider berth, so we ended up going over to the next cliffside. And you can see I've started to ramp it up to where the resources are. So I'm going to have to build this up. And I think the best way to do this is just to fill it in with concrete, make it look like it's really chunky and well supported, and then run that all the way across to the train stations over there. Oh, by the way, before we go ahead, have you noticed that if you slide and jump at the moment, it gets gradually quicker? Am I just imagining that? I swear that's faster. Maybe I'm going mad. I don't know. I don't know anymore. Anyway, the idea will be just to bring this down. Maybe I'll do some decoration for this later on, just add a little bit of detailing, but I don't want to do too much. We'll just run it all the way up, make it nice and thick, and go from there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of that fungus because as soon as you get further away, the lod leaves and then you're left with just a blank one. You see, it's just spawned in. Ugh. Anyway, the point is, what I actually wanted to show you is that we've now done the train line all the way up its winding through the natural ramp up to this area, and then we've got a bit of a sky station for the time being. We've added the frame supports to make it look a little bit more supported. I will have to add more once we've got the resources coming in, but we don't need to worry about this just yet because this is all for the turbo fuel and rocket fuel, which we're not concentrating on today. So with that done, we can now head back and get started on the actual facility. Now that we're back at the facility, it's time to get started. Now for today's video, the big thing that we need to do is the diluted fuel setup. So we need a heavy oil residue plant, which I'm hoping we can squeeze into this spot. And then we're going to have our fuel facility, a diluted fuel facility here. And then we'll need to do a section for generators as well. So we're going to use 3 blueprints, or at least that's the intention. Let's see how it goes. And for this, we're going to start off with the heavy oil residue. So let's start off with the foundations. Now, the reason that we're doing foundations is I want to sink the polymer resin. So by having these, we'll be able to add our floor holes for the build. And we're going to see how many we can squeeze in. Hopefully it'll be, I think we can fit 4 in, right? Yeah, wonderful. Next, let's add our conveyor floor holes, and then we can have our elevators. Hopefully these don't bug out, otherwise I'm going to have to redo each and every one of them. And then I would like to add some kind of decor to this. I don't want it to be just a boring looking facility. So what if we run this all the way up? It'd be really nice if we could make it darker. And so here, what we're doing is we're painting it black, but then we're setting it to -100, which allows us to get this true black. The other thing that I want to have is we're going to need to bring all of the oil up. So let's have a little line all the way along. You know, I don't think that's gonna do it. Let's take it up a level first and then do the same. Then we can add our pipeline joints, hopefully. Yeah, that's snapping. Do we have enough space? Yeah. Oh, wonderful. There's exactly what we wanted. And we're going to fancy this up. So we're going to have a walkway along the top. So we bring this up. I don't mind a little bit of flipping through if it looks right. So I think we're going to have to move this forwards a bit more so that it's over this section, and then we can have our walkway here. And you know what, I'm just going to spend ages. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to end up spending all my time decorating, but it'll look good. Can we? Oh, it would be better there. We'll empty this so that it's just glossy. Oh, look at that, beautiful. And then we can run this all the way across. Tell you what, give me a few seconds to change this up. I'll do some more decorating on the bottom section as well, because I quite like to have opposing, or underneath, probably the better way of putting it, a bright light. I don't know what kind of light. Then we're also going to have to box this off as well. Yeah, leave this with me. I can tell I'm going to be here a while playing around with this.
A few moments later.
So I may have got carried away. So I ended up pushing it forwards, as you can see, all the way to the edge and bringing this all the way across. And we have the pipe sticking through, or I should say the walkway sticking through. And I've only done this shiny sign on one side now because there was no point once I put it there, but I do like the idea of just seeing the railing pop out the top. As for the rest of it, we've done a little border. This is just using the label signs, and we've done them just like we did with the black, except with white to create this kind of border along the edge. And then we've used the green, which we had at the top, just to mark the conveyor lift going down. And then I went a bit crazy with the decorating. I'll be honest. So we had the background foundation, the shiny foundation. I thought, you know what, having a little pipe sticking out would look quite cool, a bit like this one. So we're mimicking that there. And I thought, oh, you know, we'll just add a little bit of highlighting, and I carried on highlighting, and this is what we've got for the heavy oil residue plant. You can see we've also daisy chained these to make it nice and easy. And then if we come around this side, you can see we've done a similar system with a little walkway and then a large orange sign behind, which gives it a nice little ambience to it. So really happy with how this has turned out. But before we get started placing this, I do want to get started on the blender variant as well. I haven't unlocked the blender yet. Well, that's what I've got to do. We could use the diluted packaged fuel if I have the recipe, which I do not. Oh, great. I'm going to have to do some hunting for hard drives, I think. So we will be back. Right, let's quickly check on what we need for the blender. It shouldn't be too difficult now that we've got aluminium unlocked. So this one, yeah. Oh, would you look at that? We should be able to do that. Don't know if I've got these connected to the depot yet. Oh, right. Well, let's see. I can grab the aluminum. Oh, we have 200. Okay. Tell you what, having this storage system is so much easier. What else did we need? Oh, 200 computers. Yeah, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is grab the computers over here, and we're going to run upstairs and grab some tickets. I'm just going to unlock them now. Okay. Oh. Where did I put my coupons? I've definitely got more coupons than that. Oh, I bet I've left them at the hub. Do we have enough? Come on. Parts. Ah, we're fine anyway. There we go. Right, I'm testing this jump again. We've got a nice amount of space. Slide jump. We're definitely getting quicker. I'm not going mad, am I? Look at that. Oh. Ah. Okay, anyway, we now have all of these. Did I not take them out? I knew I had more. That's frustrating. That's really frustrating. Wait, I definitely bought. Where did they go? Is it specific to the shop? Oh, they are. I thought I took. Never mind. Anyway, that is the blender unlocked. I need to go on a hard drive hunt, and we'll be back once I've got the recipe unlocked. Should have definitely have done this before setting out to build this facility. I've been searching for about half an hour, and I've yet to find the bloomin' recipe. Typical. It's going to be a lot of these. 180. 200. Gonna need some biomass. Okay, let's see. Will this work? Quick. Voila. Just in time. We can delete all of this and forget about it. So the next thing that I want to do very quickly is just make sure that we've got, oh yeah, of course, we've got a hard drive done. Fingers crossed. Look at all of these. So this one got me excited because it's the diluted packaged fuel. However, it's not the one we want. The one we want is the blend diluted fuel. So we're going to have to put in, what did we unlock? Aluminum beams. Nah, let's send another hard drive on the go. We can also rescan these, and if we're lucky, if we're really lucky, nah, don't really want to scan this again. Right, let me see if I can find it. We'll carry on going. We've done it! It's only taken me an hour. So we found the diluted fuel alternate recipe for the blender. And if you look at the diluted package fuel and the diluted fuel recipes, they're both the same in terms of the resource that they take and the output. So you put in 1 heavy oil residue and 2 water and you get 2 fuel out of it. The only difference is it skips a whole lot of work. With the Refinery's version, you have to package the water, unpackage the fuel, and then recycle it. And it adds a lot of work to the overall build and can cause a lot of issues if you don't set it up right. So instead, we're going to go with this one, which means we need to get back to base and start working on the blender blueprint. So we have returned and we're going to keep this one pretty simple. We're going to go for a similar style. So we're going to make it quite basic and then add a load of lighting to it. We're going to have the coated foundations for the walkway, and then we'll have the concrete material as the actual facilities section. And if I remember rightly, the blender is about 2. Yeah, there we go. Wonderful. So we're going to place 1 here. And then a second one across from this. So we can block this off because we're not using these. In fact, we can just run this all the way along. It's not really getting in the way. And then we'll bring the resources across from above. I think that's going to be really important. Let's keep it 3 high, and then we'll have another one that's, I don't know, 4 high. So we'll run that all the way through, and then we'll do the same on this. This will allow us to place pipeline junctions. There we go. Then we'll just repipe this. We'll have one as, we'll paint them according to the resource that they're providing. Yeah, that'll look good. Oh wait, that wasn't my intention. So we're going to have one that's blue. Yeah, that's a nice blue. And then one that's more of a purple. And then we want to do something with a walkway along the end. We could have all the fuel run along here, and then we have the walkway on top. Have it like this for now. We can adjust that in a little bit. Yeah, something like that. I think we can do more with this, but this is the basic kind of layout that we want for this. And that way we can just snap them together, and then we'll add a walkway to the top. Another thing that would be really cool is to have lighting here, and I've actually created a blueprint for this specifically. Is it this one? Not the one I was thinking of, but we could maybe try that. How would that look? Let's do it this way around. Like that, and delete that. Ooh. Hey, that is, I don't mind the little clipping there. I think that looks really nice. It'd be nice to have, could I do this across the other side? I'm not sure that works. I'm gonna play around with this a little bit more. What I'd really like is to have some kind of lighting. I can just grab this across to here, and then we could put the light inside. Oh, it won't let me snap to it. There must be a way that I can do that. I suppose I could do it this way. And just nudge it all the way across. Ooh, that's quite nice. Okay, I'm going to play with... Oh, no, I can't delete it. I think I'm going to have to work out how to do this section and then place it separately, because I can't delete it if it's wrong. Whereas if it was a blueprint here, I could delete the whole thing. So leave this with me and we'll come back. But I do like the idea of doing lighting there, and maybe we could, if we're lucky, run some kind of lighting across this section as well. I bet you I won't be able to place it. Oh, I can on that one. Ooh. I think it's a bit too orange. Maybe we could try a different color here, but I do like that. Okay, I've worked it out. So what we're doing here is I'm going to nudge this across. And with a touch of luck, that should be perfect on both sides. Now I haven't put the light above, but I have put it across the side here. And then we get that. That's much better. It looks a lot cleaner. Wonderful. Okay, so with this build, what I'm now going to do is add some roofing to the top of it. So I'd quite like to have a walkway, probably around the same height as this. So if we just grab that, it needs to be, I think, 1 meter actually. And we'll run this around the build. I don't know whether we want that. No, not there. Have it around here. From here, I'm going to add a little walkway piece. I want that to be a T-junction so we can go across to the next blueprint. And then that all the way across. I think we're going to do the same here as well on this side. Okay, that's starting to look all right. From here, we'll also add a frame. I'm just going to zoom that across. Feeling it should be slightly higher now. I don't know. Touch higher maybe? The other thing, before I get too far ahead with that, is we're going to need some kind of roof above this. So if we grab the ramp, the inverted ramp, we're going to paint this shiny. Then thanks to the ease of the new nudging up mechanic, we can place this 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, about that high. Run that all the way across. And then from here, we'll have a ceiling. I need to work out what we'll do for the ceiling as well. We're probably going to coat it either carbon or the pitch black like we've done for that section over there. Carbon looks so good. And it'd be really nice if we worked out some kind of ceiling piece here as well. Maybe some strip lighting. We have a quick play around with the edge. What I do, just by nudging it, we get this little lip poking out. So we could do something like that, and maybe we'll do it either side so that we could run beam all the way up to the top and then along. This might look terrible. It might look great. Let's grab one of these and then do something like this. Just all the way up like so. I don't know. We could continue this all the way along. But that might be a touch too much. Yeah, I'm liking that. Maybe a different color. Maybe, where's the red? I'm not sure. I like it, but it might be a touch too much. But we're almost there, so I will finish this off and then we'll start looking at the generator blueprint. And here we are, the completed blueprint. I think I may have gone a little overboard with this, but you can see we've done the strip system that we had before, but I've actually gone with copper rather than white. Anyway, with that now done, the last thing that we need to do is to set up the generator blueprint, and this should be a relatively easy one. So all we're going to do is place down our foundations, and from here we're going to add our 2 generators to this because we can fit 2 in a Mark II blueprint. I'm going to need to make sure that we have enough room for a bit of a walkway. Maybe that's, we could maybe halve it and do half black, half white. Regardless, let's add the second one. Then we're going to have along the front here, we'll grab our concrete pillar. So run that across there, and then we'll have this one here, and this will take all of the fuel obviously and feed it into these. We do need to make sure that we've painted them the right color, so they're going to be an orange. We need to do a darker orange, honestly. And then from here, let's do the same thing that we did with the refineries. And then we can nudge this all the way back just so the cylinders are sticking out. We go half. From here we can add some, actually let's bring this all the way to the top so that we don't have a ladder sticking through. And I feel we should actually, if possible, let's get rid of that, fit some lighting in between here, and we'll make it the orange that we've used previously. We'll just go with that one. We just need to fill this in. We're going to run this all the way along so that it fills up the back. Might need to be a bit smaller. And then on this side, we're going to want some more work done. So I think we could probably go with a row of pillars, followed by a row of these, where we could add this. And if we turn it, and then we nudge it, how's that? Okay, I'm liking that, but I think we need to move it just an inch further across so that we don't see these sections. And then we could maybe add to this a little blue light. So we're definitely going to have to move this one further, or even nudge this one further back. And then over here, we're going to want to play around with the lighting as well. I'm going to just build this up. I want this to be a little passageway, and then we'll have all of our wires coming through to somewhere like this, so we can just connect it up really easily. But it's just going to be very simple. And then probably on top, to save us a bit of a headache, we'll do the roof with just single walls and create a gap in between them. So for example here, we'll run this all the way along, then we'll repeat it here. We'll go too deep. Actually, if we were to do that, that would look odd because it would be in the center, because I'm thinking about having these back to back. If we start this down, I don't know, if we do the whole thing, then we have this one slightly higher, then we have another one. It's a lot of work to do this, but hopefully it'll look quite cool on the inside. And then we're going to repeat this again here, and then again, and then once more. And this will be repeated on the other side as well, so it should allow for some quite nice lighting. Other thing would be, it would be quite nice to have lighting along here. Okay, I think I'm getting carried away with this for now. I'm gonna play about with it, but you get the general idea. So we're just gonna have two either side. We'll probably overclock these as well, to save us placing too many. And on the inside, I'm going to just wall this up and play around with the depth. But I'm gonna have to either move this back one, or move this a touch back. And here we are with the final blueprint. So I did just shift everything back by one place, which makes this look a lot cleaner. And I've played around with the depth and adding different barriers and beams and pillars in order to make it look a little bit more detailed than just a flat surface. And so we'll be able to walk down this corridor and it'll be lit up as well. To add a touch more detail, we've got the white pillars. These are actually going throughout the whole build on the other side, but this means that both blueprints will be connected in the center thanks to this and look supported. And on top of this, we have the lighting on the outside. So I'm really happy with how this has been developed, and it doesn't look overly complicated, though we have added a bit more lighting to give it some atmospheric uplighting in places too. So now that we've got our 3 blueprints ready, we can get started on the facility. However, before we do that, we do need to set up a small section of the facility so that it is producing fuel that can be burnt off at some generators, because I've worked out we need 7.6 gigawatts of power in order to turn it all on. So if we just check here, you can see that we're producing just under 10 gigawatts. No, there we go, 10.5 gigawatts, and we're consuming 8.2. So that just isn't going to cut it if we're needing 7.65 gigawatts. So this needs to be much closer to the 16 gigawatt production rate. But for that, we are going to also have to sort out water, which we haven't even looked at yet, thinking about it. So for this, we can place this all the way over here for now. And the plan with this, we need 4,445 water, which works out at, we overclock to 250%, that's going to be about 15, right? Oh yeah, 300, I was confusing. 14.8, not bad. Okay, so we will do that. How we'll do it is if we place down this all the way to the ground, we'll try and make sure that we have plenty of space for the pipes to go up. Because what I always find when I'm doing these kind of builds is that I have the pumps for the the water clipping in with one another, which we don't really like. So by giving ourselves a bit more space, hopefully this will work out okay. Let's bring this down and run this across. Don't know how many we need, but we'll place 2 down. We're going to run our water extractors a little bit too high. I'm trying to get them to snap to the foundations. So you need to make sure that your foundations are placed low enough under the water for that. So if we grab our water extract, there we go. We can now place this where we want. Unfortunately, you can't nudge them. So we'll just bring it up to about here. This is going to have to be lower. And then we'll place this next to there. If we're doing 15, that's mucks it up a bit actually. If we overclock these to the 250%, that's 600 between 2. So we need to do them in rows of 2 or 4, but we've got an odd number. So if we have 4 on one side, 4 on the other, that would give us 8, and then we have another 4 here, 12, and then we will have the last 3 this side. And then from there, we'll need to split this one between these 2, and then we'll have a line going up from this one, another one from over here, and we can use that straight belt. Wonderful. Fantastic. Anyway, I will do this for all of them and then start taking it up to this floor. And once that's done, we'll get started on the heavy oil residue. And there we are. We have our water prepped. Now, I haven't connected them to the power lines just yet because we don't have the power overhead to turn them all on. So we're waiting for this section to be built. And from there, we will turn these on and hopefully be able to produce the fuel that we need to run those gens. Also, I just realized that today marks my 10-year anniversary to the day of creating content on YouTube. It's crazy what's happened across these 10 years. So can I just say thank you so much, guys, for all the support. I hope you continue to love the content that we produce. Anyway, we are ready to get started with the fuel section that we need, the basic one. And we're just going to run this all the way along here. So this is going to have all of our crude oil run across. And the plan is to have all of our heavy oil refineries, heavy oil residue refineries even. They will be in this section. So we're going to run the oil across to, well, let's see, where's this? Probably about here. And then if we bring this down, this is where we're going to place our temporary setup, which will eventually be turned into, if all goes to plan, our petroleum coke refineries. We're going to run the oil along to here, then we'll have the heavy oil residue come out this side, and this is where we're going to put our first set of blenders. Just need to make sure that we've got enough fuel. We're going to need one more actually. Refinery to add on, because I've worked out, if we quickly cover that, each of these produce 40 per minute, so that leaves us with 4 gigawatts, and we need about 5 gigawatts of power. So if we did 40 times 5, you can see that that changes to the 5 gigawatts that we need. Of course, that means that we're producing 200 heavy oil residue, which means we need a total of 2 of these to run. Unfortunately, right now, I've just seen we are lacking resources. That is a slight issue with these blueprints because they are so resource hungry. You can see we're using over 800 iron plates and 700 quartz per minute that we're going to have to bring in when we get started building the full thing, because otherwise we're going to be waiting every 5 minutes for this to be reimbursed with the materials that we need. There we are. So that's the 2 blender setups that we need. From here we can connect these up, and we'll need to connect them to the heavy oil residue setup. We'll have to run all the pipes. I'll do that in a moment. The other thing that I wanted to quickly touch on, we need over here to place some fuel gens. And after going back and getting those resources, you can see we've now got our storage units in the right by the train station there. We've now set up the generators and this is all running, which means we can get started on the facility. But more importantly, to keep this particular section of the build in keeping with the rail lines around the world that we've set up, we've used the same blueprint from earlier, which you can see behind over there, to build up this sidewall which houses our rail line. So this is going to be the outer wall of this section as well, and also the inner wall of this section, which we need to do now. Now, just to follow on from our whole probe anagram, we've already done the planning and we've worked out the compartmentalizing. So this section of the build is just going to be for the diluted fuel. And we've also done the resource and logistics. You can see we've got the logistics line sorted. That's the train line above, and also how we're bringing all the resources in. So we've got all the crude oil here, which is all we need for this build actually. And well, water from below. And now it's time to actually organize and do the build and then observe if there's any issues. So before we get on to beautifying and doing the outer walls, we need to make sure this is running. So we're going to start off with our lovely blueprint here. And we want the input, which is this side here, to align with this. So we'll start off with that. And we need to do, if I remember rightly, 5 of these at a time. So it should be pretty simple now. All we need to do with this one is make sure they're facing the right way. If we need to, we can nudge it in. Oh, look at that. Quite tight, but perfect. And then we need to do 3 more rows of this. And then I need to connect it all together. So I'm going to be busy bee for the time being. And just before I do the rest of these, it's worth mentioning that I'm going to, as we go along, also set up all of these so we have all of the polymer resin running like this line all the way along to a set of awesome sinks. So we've now placed all of these and we're just making sure that they're all connected up. But I'll be honest, this is looking better than I anticipated. I think we can really play around with this. We definitely need some kind of walkway along here. Maybe we could do it through there to get to the other side. But, in fact, let me go to the new drone cam mode. Decoupled, there we go. There we go. That, it was quite a squeeze. It didn't actually fit quite as snug as I was hoping. And so we had to delete the fungus the other side. It was about here. So it's a bigger build than I first anticipated, which is always the case with Satisfactory builds. And it got me worrying, if I'm honest, about the blender setup. I mean, there's not too many blenders, but the blender blueprint itself is quite big, given that that just houses 2 blenders, and we're going to need several floors worth. But it's fine. My first thought would be to just flip it on the other side, and that might look quite good, but then we'd have to have at least, I'd say, we'd probably have to do these 4 plus 4 more. In fact, I'm going to have to do the maths, aren't I? I think it's 100 per... It's 200 because we've overclocked it for now. Well, I say overclocked, we're summer slooping it. Is that all of these? No. So it's 100 for each. So we could do with 3 in a line, which is an issue because it's not going to fit here. So either we move all of this or we overclock. So having given it a little bit of thought, I feel the best way to go ahead is to do lines of 6 because we haven't got that much space here. And if we do lines of 4, it's just going to go on into the cliffside. So we do need to do 6 per section. And we need a total of 45 blenders altogether. So we have 12 here. And I will do another 12 next to this, like so. I don't think the game likes me using so many blueprints in a single spot because I can definitely see frames dropping. But we'll do another 12 here. That will give us 24. We need 40. It's just under 45. So we will double this up. So we'll have a total of 48 blenders in this section. And I'm then going to underclock the last line. All right, so we'll place this all the way over here. And then once I've done all of these, I'll double it up above and we'll underclock the last line. I am thinking though, having seen this section here, it looks great having this ceiling across, but I think we're hiding too much of the actual build. We could probably do with just removing the centerpiece there. And that would leave all of this open for us to see from above. But let's see how it looks once it's all built up and we'll go from there. It took me a little bit longer to finish off that. I kept running out of the resources, so I went back to base and got the steel. But now I thought, you know what, rather than do the second level straight away, let's set up these lines and make sure that we're receiving the fuel that we need. And then we'll turn on the fuel generators, so we'll set up the fuel generator line while we're here so that we know everything is going to run as intended. And then once we've started getting the power to that, we can then do the next tier with hopefully 0 issues. Yeah, right, there's bound to be an issue somewhere along the line. Let's live in hope for the time being. I always seem to be living in hope. Right, there's that one. And then the next thing to do from here is to start taking the pipes for the fuel. Each one's a Mark II line full. So we've got 2,400 fuel across 4 pipes to run all the way along here, all the way along there, which is going to be just here. So we'll bring all the pipes along to this point and run them to here, where we will have our generators in a long manifold, well, multiple manifolds actually. Just run that across and we'll double them up, so it'll be mirrored either side, and each line will have have 6 of these, so there'll be 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and we'll have 8 sets of those if my maths works out right. So the next job is to get all of those fuel pipes down to here, but we're starting off with just 4 because it's only going to be half the build that runs until we get the top section done. That being said, I can save my legs by using my head a bit and creating a blueprint here. And now that we've got the auto connect feature, I can just do this. He says, just make sure it's where we need it, and then I'm going to have to run this, if we can, all the way to the end. And hopefully this will make it pretty quick to set up. You know, I've been working along and it just occurred to me I've done something stupid. The whole, oh, I'll save myself some time by building a blueprint. I totally forgot that we needed to double this up. Because we're only running half of the line so far. So either I redo the whole of this, which might be the case, or I guess I could just add some supports above this and connect it. Anyway, let's do the generators now. So as you can see, we have our first line of 600, and at the moment we have, each of these are going to take 20. So we have 6 here and 6 the other side, which is 12 times 20, and then we're doing a overclock of 250%, which means that we're consuming across each set of 12 600 fuel per minute. So that's 1. Then we have the next one, which is going to run up to here, and we need to set this up using the blueprint, and we need to make sure that there are why do I use so many signs in my blueprints? I'm gonna be here so long. So we need to do another 4 of these blueprints here, and then another 12 next to this. Then we're going to take all of these and run them. Oh, I didn't think this through. I'm going to need to have at least a 1 foundation walkway all the way down here so that we can place the piping. Well, I guess I'll redo this. Anyway, at least you know what we're going to be doing. But this is full, which means I've now got a... Has it gone? Don't tell me it's... Oh, I've got so many dismantle crates as well. This is my worst nightmare, because I'm going to have no idea where they are. Anyway, I'm going to redo all of this, so I'll see you once it's hopefully up and running, actually. Okay, it is done. We have set this up, but there's an issue, and I'm not quite sure what it is. You can see we've got all of the pipes running, and they'll run for a little bit, and then they'll all start shutting off, which means there isn't enough fuel in the pipe. So it could be to do with head lift. I don't think it is. It could be to do with the pipe bugs that are abundant, apparently, or it could be something else. So I'm going to try and work that out. I mean, we don't need it to be absolutely perfect just yet, but we do need to make sure that it's hitting, what is it, 24? No, we've got 48. We should be getting about 30 gigawatts, and we're not doing even a third of that. So we need to get those numbers up. That starts with going all the way to the beginning and seeing if there are any issues. Like, this is a full pipe. This is an empty pipe. This is a full pipe. This is a semi-full pipe. It could be sloshing as well. And I should mention, this is all part of the probe system. So we're organizing everything, and then we're making sure once it's set up that it's fixed and running. So we definitely have some work to do before we move on to the next setup. Well, obviously, we've only got half the factory running so far. Could, of course, be water. These are full. So are they? Well, that's a full one. Let's quickly check the other side. Yeah, it looks like it's connected. Oh, wait, here we go. These might not be receiving enough heavy oil residue. Let's see at the end of this line. Yeah. Okay, so the issue is with the heavy oil residue. Let's run all the way from there. So it is this line that's the issue, which suggests, you know what, it is probably pumps. It's not quite hitting the top. Yeah, I think that's it. Wait, hang on. It's not the heavy oil. Well, it is the heavy oil residue, but it's not this. The problem is the crude oil. And this isn't going to help, because the issue is not here. It's going to be further down the line. Well, that's providing it's not a floor hole problem. I think if we have some pumps here, this should work. What if it's not here? What if it's all the way back to the other end? As you can see, the flow rate there is high, but here it's not. It's not getting up. It's this. It's this. I've sussed it. We've got the oil here, and it's traveling into the pipe, and it's sloshing back, but it's not able to get all the way to the top, which is why this is empty. So I bet if we add, in fact, let's do a Mark II for the sake of doing Mark IIs. You're pumping. You're full now. Yeah, okay, so I think that is the problem here. Right, so whilst we're waiting for the pipes to fill up and hopefully fix that issue, I thought we should get started on the next floor. Goodness me, I'm getting some real drops in FPS here. We don't want to use this one. So this is actually a second version of the blueprint. So the first one that we created was this one. And the only difference is we flattened out? Yeah, that's a word. The top part of the roof so that we could do 2 floors of this. So we're going to place that one there, and then we'll repeat this on this side. And then we're going to need another line here. This line will be underclocked so that we can counter the lack of resources, because we need 45 blenders, and by doing it this way we're going to have 48, but it'll look weird if we only do half a line. So I would rather underclock a whole line so that they all fit in. But I'm going to set up the rest of these now. We're going to make sure all the fuel runs. Oh, we're going to have to somehow bring it down here, actually. Yeah, and then run it on top. That's going to take me a few moments. But I have got to say, this is really starting to come together, and I'm really excited as to what this might become. We just have to make sure that we don't screw up the decorating, because this is going to be quite an epic build. In the end, I've just run all of the lines above the blueprint that we already had. It just meant it was easier for us to do rather than redo it all. And as such, we're ready to do the last 4 sets of these. So we're going to place these now, and then we'll wait to see what kind of numbers we're getting from them. And of course, if we're still having issues, we will fix them. That is, if I can find the blueprint. Oh wait, why can't I? Where's the blueprint? Okay, there we go. Oh, that was more difficult than it needed to be. Right, I think we're ready to see how it's running. And I am quietly confident it is running at least much better than it was. This leaves us with total production of 55 gigawatts of power, 55,550 megawatts if all is going well. And we started off, I think, with 10,000, and we also have 6,500 being produced all the way over there that we haven't turned off yet. So that would leave us with 71 gigawatts of power, which is what we have. However, it's not as efficient as it could be because we've got a power boost over here. So actually we're only producing 66 gigawatts of power. So we are 5 gigawatts short somewhere, but being 10% down for now, I will take. I'm pretty happy with that. It might be a little bit under, but we can get started on the next section now. So what we need to do is tear down the fuel generators there, patch the fuel that's being produced from the other section of the build into the network that we already have so that the other generators that are empty will actually receive the fuel. And then we need to get started on decorating, because B in probe is beautify. So where to start with this? I mean, we could start with the big build at the back, but I'm tempted to start here, as it's just going to be a single wall that we need to worry about. And then once we've got the general style from this, we can start implementing that further along the line, and hopefully they'll all bleed together. So for this, I think we're going to play around. I did a little kind of design here, which I quite like. And so I'm thinking about doing something similar to this, but I quite like the idea of having these big, thick pieces. So instead, what we'll do first of all is run that all the way across, and then we're going to have a long piece down, and we're going to duplicate that. And then from here, we'll add our little archway, and we need like a little one of these half walls, and we're going to run that all the way down. 1, 2, 3. And we'll grab the quarter pipe, bottom set, nudge that in place, and then behind we can just fill this in. It's going to be a lot of concrete. Thankfully, concrete is one of those resources that I'm not too worried about. We're producing a lot of that. Now there is one problem. I think this needs to be further over. Let's nudge this over. There we go. How does that look? I think that's going to look pretty nice if we duplicate that all the way along here. And then the next thing that we can do is wall all of this off. So where to start? Let's grab our concrete walls for now. I'm just going to run that all the way across to, I guess, this point. This, by the way, is the heavy oil residue section that needs to go to the turbo fuel plant. I'd quite like to have a load of natural light in this build as well. Actually, thinking about it, if we bring that back and up, we could fill this in maybe using a pillar, because then we could display the piping on the outside, which I think would look pretty cool. Yeah, I quite like that as an idea. Okay, next let's grab the windows so that we're bringing in natural light. And I'm just going to make this super easy. I'm just going to bring this all the way across. There's a time to decorate and there's a time to not, to play it safe and simple. The thing is, when you're doing a build like this, you want key elements to really stand out, and then you want other sections to be just simple and easy to do. It looks so much better when you have a few bits that just stand out than having everything look amazing, because then you don't know what to look at. So we'll run that all the way across. And then here, I think we need to break this up a little bit. Let's build that inside ever so slightly. From here, we need to break this up a little more as well. I'm gonna grab, not these ones, but we have a smaller one on this side. If I grab that and place that, I'm gonna run this all the way across just to make it pop a little bit. And then we're gonna have to do the same on this segment here because it's just too much of a plain color at the moment. And let's just go with a concrete one. We'll do it with a big piece though. Yes, this is it. This is nice. I'm liking this. So from here, we need to find some way to cleanly close off the top. And I think we can do that with a little 1 meter wall, and then we'll add a foundation to it. From here, grab a 1 meter wall foundation and just run that across the top. And this will act as a nice little lip. I think we could do with maybe another little lip up here with this. If I run that all the way to the... Ooh, okay. And then we can do the same in that direction as well. Ooh, actually, I'm really liking how this is coming along. We can have this fully bordering the facility. We'll have to have some kind of window, I think, here as well. And doing this will allow us to also place just underneath asphalt. If we make this material asphalt, it's going to really make it all pop all the way along. We can have a glass window here. Oh, it's really like firing off all these ideas now. And this section will contrast that by having, I think, some more copper. Sometimes you just got to let your imagination run wild a little bit and see what happens. But at the same time, if it doesn't look good, you have to be willing to admit defeat and tear it all down again. Oh yeah, I'm really happy with that so far. What if I grab this and we run this around the outside of here, so like a little barrier, and then we grab our, I think it needs to be quite a peaked roof here, make it glass, and then run this all the way along to the end. And we'll do this for that segment as well. Oh yes. And of course, the last thing that we need to do with this is add a little sign on the front that explains it's the heavy oil residue plant. Perfect. At this point, I've just been going around adding a few more extra things inside the facility. So all these catwalks all the way across the top. I think this works pretty well. And then also the lighting here. I've actually staggered the lighting so it's slightly darker and then lighter, and I think it works really well here. Really clean build. What we will do though is once we've completed not just this build but the overall facility when it's running rocket fuel, if you guys would like, we'll do a full-on tour of the whole facility, because obviously there are things like the lighting here that I haven't shown myself doing. I am making it so that we can walk throughout the whole facility, so we're probably going to do some adjustments with the walkways at some point. I also want some way to walk through to the next facility, which will be the blender part and the petroleum coke just through here. But I think the next thing that we should do is actually sort out this section. I think we can now get rid of all of our fuel generators here. I just don't think it's necessary given we've got all the ones down there, and we can start redistributing the fuel as needed. With the generators down, we now need to sort out the petroleum coke. That's the word I was looking for. So this section isn't actually part of the diluted fuel setup, but it is going to be used in the turbo fuel setup. So all we're going to do is take this blueprint here and we're going to place it behind. This is going to be taking the crude oil that it's currently receiving and turning it into heavy oil residue. And then we're going to move it across to there. We'll have some kind of way to we'll probably bring the heavy oil residue down and then across to this segment. So I'm going to have to adjust this actually. It might be easier for me just to delete this and redo it because petroleum coke only has a physical output. Yeah, so we'll do that. And then we'll sink the petroleum coke somewhere around here and we will send the coke once we need it all the way around to the turbo fuel plant there. And here we are. So I ended up placing down the blueprint again, but then just removing the front because I still like all of this and I don't want the effort of having to place it all individually again. But you can see we are sending the petroleum coke for the time being here. And then we've also got the excess heavy oil residue. This is from the heavy oil residue pipes over there. You'll remember, in fact, let me jump over really quickly. These pipes here are specifically going to the turbo fuel setup and this one to the petroleum coke. So they just run all the way around. Let's see, all the way along to the end. Don't worry about these are just part of the decoration. This one's going to the petroleum coke facility and we'll just head all the way back now. Oh, I also added this. So now we have a direct walkway to the heavy oil residue area. And I've added this funky little sign, which is just the labels and the square signs put together, and then with the emission turned off and a light above. I really like that. It's my favorite bit of the facility so far. So we're going to, as we get further in, decorate this more and more. But with all of this done, and we have the heavy oil residue passing under to here, and the petroleum coke being produced, we can now get started on our blender setup. So we'll do some kind of doorway into here. And then we need a way to walk across, because what I hadn't thought about is that it's a bit like a labyrinth trying to get around here. But you can see I have removed the centerpiece, and I think that looks so much better than it did before with the walkway in between. You get to actually see the piping, which is nice. We've done that for each of the levels, or will do when I get around to that one. We've done it over here as well. So while we're at it, let's have a look at how we want the facility design to look. And I'm thinking at the moment that we should have just a glass wall along the front. And we can do this from about, let's see, maybe here, all the way to about there. In fact, we'll do it there as well. We'll run it all the way across, so we have this big open window on the front section. And then in keeping with the black decor here, we'll add black walls around this section. So we're just going to fill this out for now. Bring it all the way to the top. And so we're hiding all the piping. Yeah, that'll look good. Don't know what we'll do with this. We could bring it forwards actually. I think that would look better, honestly. And then we'd have the black wall here again. So I'm gonna fill all of this out and then we'll start working on the actual wall design. So I've pushed everything to the front and I actually pushed these back just a touch because this was annoying me. And then we've gone and added a border around the outside here. And I'm liking it. I don't know, it feels like something's missing, but I have an idea in a moment. So the top deck, I wanted a viewing platform as well so that we could see everything. So this will run all the way to the end. And then I've started running another concrete border just around the top. This means that we can add the pillars to this quite easily. Yeah, that's looking all right. The other thing that I have an idea to do is over here. I've been playing around with adding a bit more detail because though it looks nice, it's very clean and on just a single level almost. It's very plain despite adding a little touch of orange. And so I've added this on one side, and if it looks good, we'll do it on the other as well. And to kind of signify that it's a fuel plant, we're using the orange lighting. I'm not sure, you know. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see this working. No, I'm not liking it. Yeah, I'm going to go back to a previous save. Sometimes you need to know when something's not working and to just scratch it and start again. To be fair, I like the top. I like this. I hate this. I hate it. Right, let's just remove all this and work out something else to do with it. I think we found it. This is the one. It's much simpler, but I like the mirrored approach. It looks great. So all we've done is use the label lighting to create a very simple design, and it just looks so much better than what I was trying to do, overcomplicating it earlier. I've been working on the ceiling here, and I thought we could just run this along the side. And I didn't dislike it. I think this kind of pillared beam section looks quite industrial, and I liked that. And I was thinking, you know what, it might be better to, instead of having these here, replace them with a glass ceiling like so, and then trying to repeat this thing that we've just done along here. So from there we could just nudge that across. I'd have to drag it in from there, but if we add that followed by those, so let's make sure they're black. Oh wait, they're already black. Fantastic. I really like that design. So that is what I'm going to do now for all of these. And there we are. Now comparing that to the previous flat roof, I'm really liking it and really happy with that design. It's just something that adds a little bit of variety to the build itself. But we've still got plenty to do. I need to now fill this section in. And I think the best way to go about this is to kind of repeat what we've done previously by having the glass window along the front. So we'll run this all the way along the straight section. And I think it needs to be about 2 high. And then we bring this across. Maybe 3 high actually. And then we'll have a little border. We can just bring that down. Or perhaps this will look better as a window. We'll have a look once it's done, see which is best. We can just run this all the way across and around. I think that would look really nice up until, of course, we have the curve. And we'll repeat this on the curve. That's going to take me a fair bit of work, but just continue the curve, or probably up to that point, and then just do a straight cut across the build. And then from here we can just run this all the way up so that it blends nicely in with the facility itself. And what if we have a little window? It doesn't have to be the whole thing, maybe just that much of the space. But I like the idea of maybe seeing some pipes behind the window that looks a little bit more industrial if you're going past it. Then if we just temporarily, we were to place that there and then have them hanging from the ceiling. Yeah, that might look quite nice. Okay, I'm going to work with that, and then once we get it to about this height, we'll then do, I think, a flat roof. And here we are, it is built. I'm really happy with how this has turned out. So we've got the supports there, we've got the wall, and it's turned out better than I anticipated. And I'd go as far as to say it looks even better at night as well. So I am looking forward to getting this started with the turbo fuel setup as well. I've actually blocked out where that's going to go all the way over here. It's just taken me another hour or so to do, but that will be saved for a different episode. Let's jump into the build now, because I've done so much interior design that I didn't think we'd be able to squeeze it into this episode. It's probably long enough already as it is. So let's just have a little quick overview of everything, and then maybe once we've done the rocket fuel plant, we'll do a full-on tour of this specific build. So let's have a little look at the build. Firstly, we do have a little signage to hopefully help you get around the build itself. So if you are someone who is part of our Patreon, you can check out this save. It's already updated. In fact, you'll be able to see a few future builds as well. But we have the ground floor for all of our blenders here that are working away, which looks pretty awesome. We'll be back here in a moment. We also have an elevator, and I've used some blueprints to kind of decorate that up. We have on the lower floor access to the logistics, which will send you over to the train station area, which will be sorted out at a later date. There is a little passageway, so we've got a walkway already planned, and then we'll have the logistics for the train station there. But as we're not using them for the time being, I didn't see the necessity of doing that. There's also access to the lower floors as well. Here. Oh, forgot about that. And so this is if you want to actually get onto the floor with the blenders. And you can obviously walk along. We have a nice little passageway across to the, well, down there leads to the train station again and the oil pumps. And then over here we have access to the heavy oil residue refineries. And you can see we've done a little bit more decoration here. Or the coke refineries, and we can go down this way and then up. You can actually see the section that we worked on earlier. We go around here. Still a bit of a maze, but I'm really chuffed with how this has turned out. I love this build. And of course, all of this gives us the power to start running bigger facilities, which is why... Oh yeah, gotta say, I love the ambience. Strictly no access with the warning light there. But this is the start of our bigger builds, and I have been enjoying it so much, just getting nitty gritty with the design here. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. If you do like any of the blueprints that we've used in this facility, like all of those or the heavy oil residue ones, you can also find them on our Patreon page as well. And as I mentioned, we're a little bit further with the Let's Play series over on stream because we build them first on there. So if you do want to join us on stream to see this in the making, then do check out twitch.tv/Totalxclipse on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Or if you want to check out the build before it's finished, as well as the one that we've just done, then do head over to my Patreon page, where you'll be able to see the madness that is getting started with this, which is a facility that's currently producing up to 22,000 iron ingots per minute, and that's going to be used as part of that facility over there. So that will be fun. But guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to all of our incredible supporters on Patreon who make content like this possible. Most notably our Lunar Eclipse patrons Firefless, The Calamity, Ben, Star, and Seeker Kala, and our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is the Souchan Husky. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.